The cake was already on the table when I understood that my daughter had never planned a birthday party for me at all. She had planned an eviction. I turned 67 that October. The leaves outside my kitchen window had gone gold and rust, the same colors they were the autumn. Margaret and I moved into this house 31 years ago. She picked out the curtains. Yellow gingham. I never changed them, even after she passed. Some things you just leave alone. My daughter Renee called me 3 weeks before my birthday and said she wanted to do something special. "Dad, you've been alone too long. Let us come to you. Let us cook for you. Let the kids see the house." I told her that sounded fine. It sounded better than fine, if I'm being honest with you. I'd been rattling around in those rooms by myself for 4 years by then, and the quiet had started to feel less like peace and more like something I was just getting used to. Her husband Dale drove them up from Charlotte. Their two boys, Cooper and Finn, tumbled out of the back seat the way boys do, all elbows and noise. I stood on the porch and watched them and felt something warm move through my chest. I thought, this is what it's supposed to feel like. Family. Home. I should have paid attention to the way Dale shook my hand that day. Firm. Deliberate. Like a man who's already decided something. The first week went beautifully. Renee made her mother's pot roast on Sunday, and we sat at the table until 9 o'clock just talking. Dale grilled steaks on Tuesday. The boys raked leaves with me on Wednesday afternoon, and we jumped in the pile like idiots, all three of us. Finn, who's 8, grabbed my hand walking back to the house, and I thought about how a man could ask for very little more than that. It was Thursday when the tone shifted. I came downstairs early, before anyone else was up, to make coffee the way I like it, and found Dale already sitting at my kitchen table with a legal pad and a calculator. He didn't hear me on the stairs. He was writing things down, circling numbers. When he looked up, his expression reset itself very quickly, like a screen going dark, and he said good morning and put the pad face down on the table. "Early riser," I said. "Always," he said. I poured my coffee and we talked about football. But I kept looking at that legal pad sitting face down between us, and something in the back of my mind that I've learned to listen to after 30 years in commercial lending. You develop a sense for when numbers are being run on something that isn't the other person's to run, that something said, "Be careful here." I didn't say a word to Renee. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself Dale was probably just tracking their budget for the trip. I told myself I was a 67-year-old man who'd been alone too long and had started seeing shadows. The next 2 days I watched Dale the way you watch weather. He walked the property Saturday morning while I was having breakfast, hands in his pockets, slow and deliberate around the perimeter. He stood at the back corner of the lot for a long time, looking toward the tree line. This house sits on 2 1/3 acres in a neighborhood that has changed considerably since 1993. What Margaret and I paid for it would barely buy a new pickup truck today. What it's worth now is a different conversation entirely. Saturday evening, Dale said, very casually, "Dad, what do you figure this place would go for if you ever decided to sell?" I looked at him over my coffee cup. "I'm never going to decide to sell," I said. He smiled. Of course, just curious." That night I called my attorney, Phil Grantham, whom I have known for 22 years. Phil is the kind of man who has heard everything and is surprised by nothing. I told him what I'd seen and what Dale had asked. There was a pause on the line, and then Phil said, "Raymond, don't sign anything. Whatever happens this weekend, don't sign a single piece of paper without calling me first." I said I understood. I went to bed that night feeling foolish. My own daughter. She'd scattered her mother's ashes with me at the lake. She'd held my hand in the hospital waiting room. Surely I was inventing a crime that wasn't being committed. My birthday was Sunday. Renee made my favorite breakfast biscuits and sawmill gravy, the way her grandmother taught her. Cooper drew me a picture of a man fishing, which he presented with tremendous seriousness. Finn sang happy birthday approximately 45 seconds before everyone else started, loudly and off-key, and then laughed at himself in a way that made the whole room laugh too. For about 3 hours, I let myself believe that everything was exactly what it appeared to be. We had dinner at 6. Renee had cooked a standing rib roast. Dale opened a bottle of wine that was better than anything I kept in the house. We ate slowly, and they told stories about the boys' school, and Dale talked about a promotion he was expecting, and I sat at the head of the table in the house where I had raised my daughter and felt genuinely, uncomplicated happy. Then Dale said, "Hey, before cake, there's something we want to talk to you about." And Renee put her hand over mine. The papers were already in Dale's bag. He'd printed them before they drove up from Charlotte, a quitclaim deed. My name transferring ownership of the property, the house, the lot, all 2 1/3 acres to Renee and Dale Whitmore. He laid them on the table next to my birthday cake and slid them toward me with 2 fingers, the way you'd slide something across a poker table. We've been so worried about you up here alone, Renee said. Her voice was soft and steady, the voice you use when you've rehearsed. What if something happened? What if you fell? We can't be here to take care of you, Dad. This is the responsible thing. We'd let you stay as long as you want, Dale said. Nothing changes day to day. You'd still be here. It would just be in our name so we can make decisions if there's a medical emergency. I looked at the papers. I looked at my daughter. I looked at the cake. Renee, I said quietly, did you know about this before you drove up here? Something moved across her face. Not guilt, exactly. More like the decision not to feel guilt. We've been planning this for a while, she said. We just think it makes sense. Dale's voice shifted then. The softness dropped out of it like something that had only ever been furniture. Raymond, let's be realistic. You're 67. You're alone up here. If something happens and you're incapacitated, we have no legal authority to help you. This is just practical estate planning. Every financial advisor would tell you the same thing. My attorney didn't tell me that, I said. Dale's jaw tightened slightly. You talked to your attorney. I did. A silence settled over the table that felt different from all the silences that came before it. Finn looked between the adults with the careful attention children give to things they sense but don't yet understand. Cooper was very still. Renee leaned forward. Dad, we're not trying to take anything from you. We're trying to protect you. Then there's no urgency, I said. Let me have Phil look at this during the week and we can discuss it properly. Dale's voice went flat. Phil Grantham has been filling your head with suspicion for years. This is a family matter, not a legal transaction. It's literally a legal document, I said. And then Renee said the thing she must have known she was going to say since Charlotte. The thing Dale had probably coached her on in the car. She said it quietly, which made it worse. Dad, if you won't do this, if you're going to make this into some kind of conflict, I don't think we can keep bringing the boys up here. It's too hard on them. On all of us. I need to know you trust me. There it was, not a hand on my shoulder, something more precise than that. She handed me a pen and she looked at me across the table, across her mother's table, in her mother's house, and she used my grandchildren as the instrument of pressure, and she waited. I want you to understand something. I want you to understand it completely, friends, because I think about it often. I was not afraid of losing the house in that moment. I had already made arrangements that meant I wasn't afraid of that at all. What broke something open in my chest right then was looking at my daughter's face and understanding that she had made a calculation. That she had decided what I was worth in numbers and weighed it, and this was the result. That the little girl who used to fall asleep against my shoulder on long car trips had sat across a kitchen table from her husband and planned this weekend the way you plan a transaction. I picked up the pen. I signed the papers. I set the pen down, pushed back my chair, stood up, and said, I'd like you to leave now. Renee said, Dad, happy birthday to me, I said. Please be gone by morning. I walked upstairs. I sat in the chair by the window in my bedroom, the one Margaret used to read in, and I watched the dark and the trees out back, and I did not cry because there was nothing left to push tears out of. I just sat there until I heard Dale's car back down the driveway at 11 o'clock that night, and then I called Phil. It's done, I told him. I know, Phil said. You ready? Yes, I said. Here is what Dale didn't know, because he'd been running his numbers on information that was 6 months out of date. 14 months before that birthday, a commercial developer had approached me about this property, not to purchase the house but the lot, specifically the back acre, and a half that borders a road the county had quietly rezoned for light commercial use. I'd had 3 conversations with Phil and a real estate attorney before I even returned the developer's second call. What we agreed to, ultimately, was an option contract. They paid me $47,000 for the right to purchase that back parcel within 18 months, with the full purchase price just under $340,000 payable upon exercise of the option. That money was in an account Dale and Renee's names were nowhere near. The house itself, the remaining lot, yes, they had that now. A quitclaim deed is a quitclaim deed, but a quitclaim deed conveys only what the grantor owns. It does not convey contracts. It does not convey option agreements. It does not convey the $47,000 already received or the $340,000 pending. What Dale had gotten his hands on was the smaller half of what he thought he was taking. I had a meeting with Phil at 8 in the morning, 2 days after my birthday. I was entirely calm. I told him I wanted to move forward with the option, contact the developer, and confirm we were ready to proceed. I told him I also wanted to begin paperwork on a small property I'd had my eye on, a 2-bedroom cottage on Lake Wylie, about 40 minutes from Charlotte, ironically enough, that a family friend had mentioned was coming available before it hit the market. I also told him I wanted to have a conversation with a different kind of attorney, one who handled matters of undue influence and fraudulent conveyance. Phil smiled for the first time in a while. I want to tell you about the certified letter because I know you'd want to know. 6 weeks after my birthday, I received a certified letter at my old address. They were forwarding my mail to the cottage by then from the county assessor's office. It was addressed to the owners of record of the property, meaning Renee and Dale. It was notification that based on the rezoning of the adjacent parcel, the property had been reassessed. The new assessed value was substantially higher than the previous figure, which meant the property tax bill for the following year was going to be significantly higher as well. I signed for it. I noted that it was addressed to them. I forwarded it to Renee's address in Charlotte with a brief handwritten note. This came for you, Dad. I later learned from a mutual friend that Dale had been counting on being able to immediately refinance the house based on its equity, using the proceeds to cover a business debt he hadn't told Renee about. When the bank ran the title, they found the option contract on the back parcel, which, as a recorded encumbrance, affected the property's usable equity significantly. The refinance was declined. The higher tax assessment arrived approximately 2 weeks after the declined refinance. I was sitting on the porch of my cottage watching the lake when Renee called. It was a Tuesday morning in January, 3 months after my birthday. Frost on the dock, coffee going cold in my hand because I kept forgetting to drink it. She didn't say hello. She said, "Dad, I need to talk to you." "All right," I said. "We didn't know about the option contract." "No?" I said. "You didn't?" A long silence. Then, did you plan that before we came up?" "Renee," I said slowly, "I spent 30 years in commercial lending. I know what a legal pad face down on a kitchen table means. I've known since the Thursday before my birthday." Another silence. Longer. "Dad, we need—" She stopped. Started again. "This tax bill. And the refinance fell through. Dale is dealing with some things. We're in a difficult position." I looked out at the lake. A heron was working the shallows about 50 yards off the dock. Patient, deliberate, absolutely still until the moment it wasn't. "I know you are," I said. "Is there is there a way we could talk about—" "Renee." I kept my voice even and quiet, the voice I use when something important needs to be said exactly once. "I signed those papers because you used your sons to threaten me. You sat at your mother's table on my birthday, in the house where I raised you, and you told me that if I didn't hand you everything your mother and I built together, you would take my grandchildren away from me. Do you understand that I know that's what happened? Do you understand that I have been very clear with myself about exactly what happened that night?" Nothing on the line. Just her breathing. "I'm not going to help you get out of a situation your choices created," I said. "Not because I don't love you, I do. And that is one of the more painful facts of my life right now, but because doing so would be a lie about what this was. And I'm too old to tell that kind of lie." "Dad, I'm sorry," she said, and her voice broke. "I'm so sorry. Dale convinced me he said it was just estate planning, that you'd be—" "I know what Dale said," I said. "I also know you chose to believe it because it was easier than not believing it. I let that sit. I have a life here," I told her. "A good one. There's a heron outside my window right now that has absolutely no opinion about any of this, and I find that restful. I'm not angry, Renee. I want you to hear that. I'm not sitting here in bitterness. I'm sitting here in a life I built on my own terms, on the back of decisions I made carefully, and I'm all right. Can we see you? Can I bring the boys?" I thought about Finn's hand in mine walking back through the leaves. "Cooper and Finn are always welcome," I said. "I have a dock. Finn will lose his mind over the dock. But you and I are going to need more time before we sit at a table together again. And Dale and I may need considerably longer than that. Do you understand?" She said she did. "I want to be honest with you, friends, about how this ends, because I know what some of you are hoping to hear, and I'm not sure the truth is exactly that. The cottage is everything I needed, and nothing I don't. 2 bedrooms, a screened porch, 40 feet of dock over the water, a kitchen window that faces east so the mornings are full of light, I put up curtains Margaret would have picked out, yellow, because I'm a creature of habit and because I'm not above talking to someone through the things they left behind. The developer exercised the option in February. The sale closed in March. Phil called me when the wire hit, and I took myself out for a very good steak and sat at a restaurant bar by myself and felt something I can only describe as settled. Not triumphant, not vindicated, just settled. Like a sentence that finally has its period. Renee brought the boys in April. We fished off the dock all afternoon, the three of us, and Finn caught his first bass and held it up with an expression of total personal triumph that I will carry with me for whatever years I have left. Renee and I sat in chairs at the end of the dock while the boys ran back to the house for something, and she said, "I know I don't have the right to ask you to forgive me." "I know," I said, "but I'm asking anyway." I looked at the water for a while. "Forgiveness isn't a door that opens from the outside," I told her finally. "You can knock all you want, but I'm the one who decides when." She nodded. She didn't push. That was the right choice. What I want to leave you with today, and I mean this for every one of you out there who has ever sat at a table that should have been safe and felt it become something else, is this. Dignity is not something anyone can sign away. You can hand over a deed, you can hand over a title, you can let them have the walls and the roof and the address where your mail used to come. And if you have done your work quietly and carefully, what they end up with is a building. What you end up with is everything that mattered. I'm 67 years old. I wake up every morning to light on a lake and coffee. I make exactly the way I like it, and I go to sleep every night in a house that is mine in every sense of the word, including the legal one. Margaret would have found the whole thing almost funny, eventually. She had a gift for that, for seeing the almost funny in the terrible things. I'm working on it. Give your family the love they've earned, friends. Give your trust to the people who've treated it carefully. And if someone tries to take what's yours, be patient, be quiet, and let them think they've won. They'll figure it out eventually. They always do.